Yeah, we'll be close to it. But it's we'll win eventually.
Good afternoon. I'm Ellen Wilfong, and as the president of the Kingfisher Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, I'm happy to invite you or to welcome you to the first ever State of the City here in Kingfisher. In the past, we have had State of the Schools. In fact, in October, we will experience our 4th annual State of the School. We've gotten a lot of feedback from people in the community who have shown that they appreciate it, that they find value in it. We have learned that when there is a gap in communication, whether it be in a business, in a team, in a family, or in a community, that gap is often filled with negativity and speculation or assumptions. And so communication like this, it takes away the power to fill that with those things. And so it has great value. I want to just really thank you, show appreciation to you for taking your time to be here today. It shows that you care about this community, that Kingfisher is important to you. This venue today gives our leaders the opportunity to share the progress that's been made, the work that's currently being done, and cast a vision for the plan for the future. I just want to commend Jim when he came to Shauna and just expressed an interest in having a state of the city because of the value that people have found in the state of the school. We were definitely on board. I think it's important, and obviously you do too. One of the things that today allows is you to ask questions. They will inform us. They allow you to ask questions to feel heard, and that's part of being a community. I want to acknowledge, before we get started, some of the dignitaries that are in the room today. If you don't mind, please hold your applause till the end. If you will, when I say your name, can you please stand, hold your hand up or something? But again, please hold your applause till the end. Emma Cook and Sean Boyle with Senator Mark Wayne Mullen's office. Peyton Burns and Seaton Harazda with Senator Lankford's office. Wesley Jaworski with Congressman Lucas's office. Director Mike Sanders with the Oklahoma Broadband Office. State Representative Mike Dobrinsky. Andy Evans, the Superintendent of Kingfisher Public Schools. And I also want to recognize Blake Callahan, the General Manager of Pioneer. I'd like to thank Pioneer for hosting today's event. You are such valued members of our chamber and of our community. I also want to acknowledge 2 of our other chamber members, the Bakehouse, 81 Bakehouse, and the Shed of Kingfisher for providing the delicious meal that you're having today. I also want to acknowledge the leadership of the City of Kingfisher for not only being willing to come and communicate with us, but actually initiating that opportunity. And thank you for City Hall, the office workers there who made this happen. Without further ado, I would like to invite Kingfisher's City Manager, Jim Thomas, and Mayor Jeff Covalt up to share the state of the city.
Thank you, Ellen. It's good to be with everybody. I appreciate the effort that you guys have made on a rainy day in August to join us. Mayor Covalt and I are true believers in trying to communicate to the public. And that's the purpose of this here tonight, to talk about some of the challenges we're facing. When he took over as mayor and as I took over as city manager, we both had a common vision. We said at the end of our tour of duty, however long that may be, we want to leave the community in better shape than what we found it. and he had no personal agenda. I was just getting acquainted with the city of Kingfisher, and I have truly, truly enjoyed his association as the mayor, but he's also been a good friend. We've had the pleasure of going out to dinner with he and Shanna, and she's with us today. Shanna Covalt, his good wife. My wife is with us, Kathy, and then I've got a 1-year-old grandson, William. He's there with my daughter. So this is a family affair. So we appreciate everybody.
Let me say a couple of things in regards to, thank you to Pioneer for hosting this. Thank you for the chamber for organizing it. Thank you to all of you that come out here. We're humbled by your presence for sure. We want to be as transparent as we can be in what we're doing with the sales tax money and the things that we're trying to accomplish over the next number of years while we're in this office and seat. So Jim has been with us for about 2 years. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, open up a lot of different areas. We're not going to be able to get into the real granular, but we're going to get as granular as we can in the time that we've gotten. So thank you again for being here. So we appreciate that.
And again, as Ellen said, we'll have a question and answer session at the end, because there may be some hot topics that you may have that we didn't cover, or a question that you may want a little bit more. And then we'll stay after if you want to talk individually with us. First slide. Kingfisher's quality of life. You've heard me say this at a number of venues. For a community our size, we have great quality of life. We've got walking trails, we have parks, we have parades with the chamber. Kingfisher Winter Nights, I have thoroughly enjoyed working with them. We're going to bring another big tree this year supporting that program. The Chisholm Trails, Kingfisher Public Schools. Throughout my career, my wife will attest that we've had to send our kids to private schools in some of the communities that I've managed. Go ahead.
And listen, we didn't practice this, so they handed out darts in the back. We're big targets, so throw what you want. I moved here 7 years ago, and the specific reason I moved here with my family was number one, schools, and number two, for community. So I'm interested, my family is interested in the community field. We lived in Oklahoma City for 20 years. We had a community around Deer Creek Public Schools, but that was about it. What we have here is special. We're a small town that are doing really good things, and we have a lot of great people like yourselves that show up, and I truly appreciate that, and I don't think you can replace the quality of life we have here. We're going to get better with what we're doing as a city and the city services that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, but nevertheless, the community that we have is on the move, and we appreciate that.
Yeah. One of the bullet points we forgot, there are 4 quality banks in Kingfisher, and for a community of 5,000, that's really unheard of to have that kind of support from the banking community. Communities can't grow without banks that are investing in the community. Next slide. Great elected officials, as I said, Mayor Covalt, and we've outlined all of them. That's a picture of us sitting at the Diaz. Several appointed officials, including myself. Brittany Laddick is the city clerk. City treasurers Anita James. Jared Harrison is our city attorney, and then our municipal judge is Kurt Bollenbach. We have a great team of department heads. Fire chief, police chief, parks, electric. All of them are here. So if there's a question you ask the mayor or I that we don't know, we'll reach out to them. They've been put on notice to be prepared.
I would say if they would stand, you'd give them a round of applause.
Yeah, that's
because,
true.
Man, they're really what makes this happen.
Anita, you don't have to be bashful. You could have stood, you and Brittany. Thanks for your work. The future of the city. That's something that the mayor and I talked about when I first got here. In fact, when I interviewed the city council, I wanted to know, what's my vision? And I said, well, really, the community belongs to the people, and you were elected by the people, and so it should be a joint effort. And so in those first 6 months, we sat down together. I brought in a facilitator, and we worked with the department heads and the elected officials and came up with a vision. We called it Destination 2030. And we're still building on that. We're making some changes inside the organization, trying to make some improvements. I think our biggest thing for Jeff and I, as we see our roles as leaders in moving the community forward is, what do we want to leave to our children and our grandchildren? Long after we're gone, our children and grandchildren will inherit the work we do. And what I'm going to tell you is something I've told every city I've been in. The decisions we make today in 2025, 2026, that's not instant gratification. They're going to talk about us in 2030 and 2035, because that's how long it takes for some of these things to work through the system and get things built and approved. So that's what we're looking at as our future. City of Kingfisher currently, where are we? Issues we're facing, our infrastructure, regulation, our day-to-day operations. The department heads know that from day one, and the city council has held me accountable, they want us to challenge the status quo. There's always best practices out there. There's other things we could be doing. And the mayor's going to talk about our capital improvement plan, because now we've got 3 engineering firms all specializing in specific areas of engineering that are going to assist us as we go forward.
One of the things I would say here is, man, we've been fortunate not to have a tremendous amount of issues. We've had some issues, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Obviously, last October, we had a problem with our water distribution. We've had some power outages. I will tell you, in my time here in Kingfisher, our power reliability, primarily due to Mark Gamble and his team, has improved drastically. Are they perfect? No, there's nobody out there that's perfect, but we have some real decisions that we're going to have to make in regards to some of that, as well as some of our infrastructure that we're going to talk about, just the deferred maintenance. And, and it's our goal at the city of Kingfisher is to ensure that you as citizens and businesses and churches and everything else is, when you turn the light switch on, it comes on. When you want water, you get water, and that there's no issues there. That's easier said than done, but hopefully as we continue to progress, you're going to see some real strides that we're going to make over this next 10 years capital improvement plan.
The slide you see now, the top is a picture of the current fire station. It's more than 50 years old, and the bottom part is a new state-of-the-art fire station. It'll be 2 stories. The main level will be operations, and the top level will be where they sleep, eat, and take care of their day-to-day tasks. I just want to talk about the fire department for a minute, because we're out to bid right now. We will open the bid September 18th. This is a topic that's been kicked around Kingfisher for a number of years. We finally, got a hold of the ball, and we're moving it down the field. We are committed to that. We appreciate the support that the citizens gave us in January, where you extended that ½ cent for another 10 years. There was some miscalculations when the first process went out. When we add up all the costs, borrowing costs, architect, inspections, purchasing of the land, we're looking at north of $13.5 million, maybe even close to 14, depending on what the interest rates finally settle in at. We have collected since 2021 about $2.5 million. The only expense we've taken out of that account is to pay for the architect to design this facility. As Chief Gibson and I talk, this facility should last another 50 years. It should be 5 generations from now before they have to worry about another fire station. I really appreciate the work that the firemen do. Last year, they did over 1,100 ambulance calls. We're responsible for the entire county for ambulance calls. And then on top of that, they had another 900 fire calls. We're fortunate that Congressman Lucas has been working with us. In fact, he was in Kingfisher on the 29th of July and toured our facility with Mayor Covalt and I. We have requested, with the support of a number of people in the community, a number of community leaders, to get a direct appropriation to help offset that cost. We have petitioned for $2.5 million, and hopefully if the creek doesn't rise and things don't go haywire in Washington, D.C., we'll get that grant that will help offset some of the costs for that fire station. Because we have, as the mayor will share with you later in the presentation, we have a lot of capital needs, and it's going to take a concerted effort from a number of venues, and we just appreciate Congressman Lucas's participation.
Let me tag on a little bit. One of the reasons we are where we are today, and we haven't gone out to bid prior to this, in our first tax, and that was passed prior to my involvement at all, but it was, we forecast that over the 10 years that we were collecting, and we obviously tracked that. What we were going to raise was somewhere in the neighborhood of about 7.7 million. That wasn't going to take care of the needs that our firefighters and emergency response people needed. It cost, I had a meeting this morning with ODOT. Their costs with their primary bid items are up about 63% in escalation and inflation. So we're not immune to that. I mean, obviously, it concerned us when we were looking to get what we needed. We're trying to limit that best we could, recognizing the needs. We were at a little over 9 million just for the facility itself, not including the architectural fees or the cost of land, the cost of money, or anything like that. So, again, we do appreciate your willingness to extend that another 10 years, but it's going to consume the majority of what we're going to raise. And again, we're not going to collect it all at once, so it's going to cost money to get to that point. So we expect to be starting construction towards the end of the fall here, hopefully.
October.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we'll see how things line out.
Just for you number crunchers out there, Nita and I projected total sales tax collected between 2021 and 2041, that half a cent that you supported us on. We're looking at about 17.5 million. So if we're going to spend 13.5 million or 14 million on the fire station, that only leaves us a few pennies, a couple million for other infrastructure needs. And I'm going to show you one slide where we're talking about sales tax collection. We are down from where we hit a high in 2018. 2018, we were collecting about 3.2 million. Last year, we were at 2.7 million. And so something has happened in the economy. People are, I don't know if they're struggling or they're just not spending what they should be in the city. I've highly encouraged, and when I've spoken at chamber events, every dollar you spend in Kingfisher turns over 7 times. And so I encourage people to spend money locally. Our water supply and distribution is a real challenge. Those are real pictures from our current facility. The mayor talked about an issue that happened last October where we were down without water for about 14 hours. And considering the magnitude, those pumps there were under 20 feet of water. And we've got them back pumping. We've got an alarm system that will notify us much more current than what we had before. But that just shows you a picture of the state of our water distribution system.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about that. So the elevated storage tank that you see there in the middle, that hasn't been maintained in over a decade. We have 2 others just like that. Those should be maintained every 3 to 5 years. And what I mean by maintained, blasting it and cleaning it and repainting that both inside and out to protect that system. So we've got a number of things in addition to what you see here that we just haven't. We talk about deferred maintenance, maybe out of necessity. I can't speak before I was on here, but we've operated really based upon emergencies. When something happens, we take care of it, but we really haven't had, in my tenure here, we hadn't had a lot of forethought as to how do we invest in our infrastructure to ensure that 10 years down the road, we're not just facing emergencies, that we can do this on a continual, regular basis. So those things like that, we obviously too, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but we're pretty heavily regulated, obviously, by the DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, EPA, things like that. We've seen that in what he's about to talk about as far as our wastewater treatment facility, which we invested about a little over $3 million in. We still have issues out there, but with our water specifically, I mean, obviously that's life and power is life, and we want to ensure that we're providing the best product that we can, given what we're dealing with. But it's going to take us some time and some investment.
One of the notes that I made when I talk about water and sewer, Citizens need good fresh water, and they want to know when they flush their toilets, it goes away. And so that kind of capital infrastructure, as the mayor talked about, the elevated storage tanks, they need to be drained, they need to be power washed on the inside, they need to be painted on the outside. If you were to go down off of, and see the Meeker Tower, which is the picture there, it's rusty. It needs some tender loving care if it's going to stay with us well into the future. Next slide talks about our wastewater treatment plant. The mayor is correct. Just prior to me getting here, the city invested about $3 million, got a loan through the state, and made some capital improvements, but it just wasn't enough. And as we learned through the process, the engineering firm we had, this just wasn't their forte. Water and sewer has got as complicated as the law has. And what we found out, the mayor being a civil engineer by profession, helped enlighten me that sometimes we need to get more than just a Heinz 57 engineering firm. I&I is that infiltration of water that gets into our sanitary sewer line and gets processed through our sewer. We are certified to handle 800,000 gallons a day of sewer. On a day like today, or earlier this week, we exceeded that to 2.5 million gallons. And so that means we've got pipes that have roots or cracks or manholes that are below the surface, and the water's just flowing in there, and we're having to process that water. And it's expensive, and it's hard on our equipment.
Yeah, so I&I is inflow and infiltration, and that's basically groundwater is the inflow, infiltration is from stormwater, right? So not every joint that you have in the ground is susceptible to leaking, right? As well as cracks and everything else. And to what Jim said, I mean, 2.5 million or 2.4 million gallons of treatment as opposed to 800,000, it's significantly more costly for our folks to treat that and to dispose of that as we do normally. So we've got to get a handle on that as well. We'll talk a little bit more about that investment here in a little bit.
Streets and sidewalk. Mayor, what does it cost to do a mile of road?
Well, that's gone up a lot. And it depends. I mean, but we spent just recently, remind me, on
1.1 million.
1.1 million. You can land the 747 on it, but and I'm kidding a little bit just because of we got a grant from the drilling fund that the state provides, which helped us a lot. I think the city funds, we spent somewhere in the neighborhood of about 200,000. I may be off.
A little more than that,
A little more than that, but nevertheless, any kind of construction, obviously with the escalation and inflation that we're fighting right now, has gone up tremendously.
We are looking at Will Rogers from 13th Street to 81. That's a major thoroughfare. It's about a half a mile.
Yeah.
A little over a half a mile. So we want to get that improved. It's got a number of cracks, and we're having an engineering firm look at that. They've surveyed it. They've done some core samples. Some of the challenges we've found that some of the roads that were built, Starlight is a perfect example. There was less than an inch of asphalt there, and the rest was dirt. They just poured asphalt over the dirt. There was no base, and that's why that road was in such bad shape.
I'm an asphalt guy, so I've tried to convince Jim not to say, we don't pour asphalt. We pour concrete and place asphalt. But anyway, we're going to get there at some point. What I would say is in regards to what we put together as far as our capital improvement plan is we not only looked at what were the needs, but really how many people used it, how many cars that we have going down that. The reason for, and I see Debbie in the crowd here, Debbie's been fighting for Rock Island Road for quite some time, and we can't get emergency vehicles down there. We have some really terrible problems across the city. It's just not cheap. But the most heavily traveled street in our city is Will Rogers from 13th to 81. And there are some issues. They're not as bad as what we see in other areas across the city.
Stormwater is another one of those issues that we're still tackling. And I know long before I got here and before the mayor was seated, the city did a lot with Newfield Park. That was an area that got flooded a lot. They bought those homes out. They worked with the federal government and did that. we still have issues in the city that are lacking in attention, and we still get areas that get flooded that are going to need some attention. We want to do a watershed study and begin a programmatic approach to dealing with stormwater. There's some areas of the community that get it harder than others, but it is a priority as part of the CIP.
So we're sitting in a floodplain, right? So that's part of the problem too. And a lot of the things that we're facing here is you can't build to 100-year storms. And a 100-year storm doesn't mean it's coming every 100 years. Some of you may know that, I don't know. It's a 1% chance every year that a 100-year storm will happen. A 500-year storm's a 0.5% chance, right? So we've had a number of those events in the last few years, even to the extent of a 500-year flood, I think is what we've seen. But you can't size pipes and boxes and storm sewer to take care of that. We just don't have the money, nor does anybody else. I mean, ODOT doesn't do that along interstate highways. So some of those things, you're gonna plan on overtopping the roads and flooding when you have events that are unusual.
Power distribution. My first week in Kingfisher, we had a total blackout. All the power. The mayor, well, he wasn't the mayor, he was the commissioner at the time. He says, Jim, what happened to the power? And I says, I don't know, Mayor. I'm at a hotel in El Reno. Let me come in. So as I was coming in, Okarche was dark, Kingfisher was dark, and Dover was dark. And I got on the phone with Mark Gamble, our superintendent of electricity. I said, what's going on? And come to find out, it was a problem with OG&E's transmission line. I've been working with OG&E for 2 years, trying to get them to make a commitment to get that transmission line adjusted or corrected or improved or whatever, and it just keeps getting pushed off. We have had conversation with Representative Dobrinsky, and he's aware of our concerns. OG&E is aware of our concerns, but it just seems like our population between Okarche, Kingfisher, and Dover just isn't getting anybody's attention. So we're not going to give up on it, but I just want to say we're doing our part with our transmission and our infrastructure. As the slide points out, they purchased a larger transformer to handle this new transmission line. You want to add anything, Mayor?
I was going to say, with the chairman of utilities here, I think we could, if y'all would just kind of gang up on him.
Yeah, that's right.
For those that don't have my number.
I have it.
But nevertheless, I mean, that's been something that was planned for 2027. We prepared for that by acquiring this transformer. It's ready to go. We've had it for well over a year, I think, Mark, and ready to roll, but it does continue to get pushed back. And just to clarify too, as far as our distribution, I mean, we're not transmitting the power. It's coming to us and then we distribute it. We'll talk a little bit about our ability to generate here in a little bit, but you're going to hear the same story. It's old and we've got issues, so.
Power generation is the next one up on the slide. That's an actual picture of our cooling tower. The technology they used in the 1920s when they put this power generation substation in, that's what they required. Basically, that's a big swamp cooler that generates cool air to keep those 5 engines cooled. When I got here 2 years ago, Mark gave me a tour of that facility. I was shaken by the age of the equipment. We have 2 engines, 2 generators that are over 75 years old. We can't even find anybody that can work on that kind of technology. And the slide on the left is what a generator looks like. The new generators that they can produce are much smaller. They're self-cooling, so we don't need that massive haunted facility in the front. We looked at, Mark and I discussed, and I thought about taking it in front of the commission. It would take us about $1 million to update this facility. And then the more we looked into it, we said, hey, if these new generators are self-cooling. I think when the city fathers or those that were involved in this facility being built over 100 years ago, it was the right thing. They wanted to provide enough power to take care of their own community, Kingfisher. As time has gone on, the facility hasn't been maintained. The equipment is very old, and it's time for us to invest some capital if we're going to keep this facility. Right now, the only time we use those are standby generators. When we get a call from OMPA and they get a call from the Southwest Power Grid, we fire them up. When we were operating in the 50s, we could generate 12 megawatts of power. We could probably take care of the entire community in the 50s. Today, we can only generate 4.4 megawatts of power. But being a standby facility, they pay us just to be on standby. But we've got to certify when they call us, crank that generator up. So we get about $220,000 a year. If we could get back to 12 megawatts, we could get a payment of about $750,000 to $800,000 a year, which basically would pay for the cost of implementing those generators. And so that's what we've been talking with the mayor and the city commissioners about. We've had a number of studies, we've had professionals look at it. And so I hope in my lifetime that we at least plant some seeds and start to look at getting back to 12 megawatts of power. To me, that's an insurance policy for the citizens of Kingfisher, that if the end of the world happens, we can at least take care of our own people. And I think that was the vision they had in 1920 when they first built it. Thanks, Brian. The challenge is we haven't maintained it. We've just taken the golden eggs and just incorporated it in the general operations of the city. And so be aware that that's on the horizon with us.
Yeah, let me clarify a few things. We can't just turn on the generators and supply the city of Kingfisher. It's got to go through OMPA.
Oh, yeah.
Agreement through them, and although we're looking at options there to invest in something like that, you're looking at about $1 million a megawatt, so it's not a cheap deal here. So as far as our financials and how that works out, we haven't quite gotten there yet, but we're working with a firm that's kind of walking us through that to see how that works.
Our parks and cemetery, we have 20,000 people buried in our cemetery. We have more people buried in our cemetery than we have residents in Kingfisher. It's one of the oldest cemeteries in this area. It's well maintained. We spend a lot of money keeping the grass cut, things get cut, investing in the cemeteries. When I look at the total number of parks that we're responsible for, the city has more than 800 acres. Now that includes the golf course. That includes 160 acres we own in Dover, where we may be putting in some new water facilities, aquatic drilling. But it's not cheap to maintain those parks. Gary and his crew work year-round to stay on top of the weeds, stay on top of the cutting of the grass. It takes a lot to keep that golf course running good. The mayor and I played in a tournament there in July, and it's a great quality of life amenity for our community.
Wasn't great golfing. Well, one thing I would say, and I'm just going to point this out, and I appreciate what Kingfisher Trails has done, because they've done a lot for our quality of life. And we talked about sidewalks earlier, but recognize too that we have to maintain that stuff. As things go, as they become part of the city, it's going to make more of a demand on Gary and his staff to ensure that the grass is mowed and the things are addressed. We obviously have some issues around the city regarding sidewalks that we haven't maintained. Those are newly constructed. We don't expect maintenance of those for quite some time, but at some point, it is more demand on already what they have as far as parks goes, and that's a concern of ours as well.
Got a great library. Mike Dukakis is here. I know I saw him somewhere. There he is, our director of the library. It serves kids, it serves retirees, it serves everybody. But it's a great asset for the community, and we encourage you to enjoy that. It's opportunities for multiple of ages. The Vernon Snow Aquatic Center, this has been a real challenge in the 2 years I've been here. We've changed aquatic center directors. Savannah Story now manages it. She was an assistant aquatic center director in 2018, 2017. Went off, took another job, and now has come back to us. As the slide says, the city council supported my desire to invest about $250,000 last year in making some improvements. We are now tracking a census. I wish I could tell you that we have more Kingfisher residents using the Aquatic Center than we do outsiders, but that's not the case. It's about a 60-40, 40% Kingfisher residents and 60% coming from outside the city. As a manager, I just want to make sure the facility is used at its optimum level. But it's more than 25 years old. And last year we invested about $250,000, and it just continues to climb. You want to say anything more, Mayor, about the Aquatic Center? We have other assets, Memorial Hall or Armory, City Hall, Senior Citizen Center. I talked about the property north of Kingfisher. Memorial Hall is built in the 30s. It's on the National Historic Site, but we've got just a couple of people using it throughout the week, but it's not used to its full potential.
One of the challenges we have with any of that stuff, Memorial Hall or anything else, is complying with ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the renovations that it would take to comply with that is pretty costly. So we would welcome your feedback as to really what do you want to see with that? Because, I mean, they're staples in the community, but very limited in what we can do with those at this point. So if you do have some ideas in regards to that, we'd be open to hearing those.
Next slide talks about the Kingfisher Golf Course. As I said, it's an 18-hole golf course. We supply all the maintenance, fertilizer, equipment, irrigation, chemicals. If something goes wrong out there, Gary's crew is out there working on it. So it's a hard draw on our resources. The next slide is that big slide.
Hold on, if you see that small little pond in there, right there, I don't know what hole that is, but that was Jim's divot. I mean, I'm telling you what, we didn't call OSHA out.
If they hadn't pulled that pin, I would have had a birdie on that hole. Tax revenue, as I talked about, we don't have the luxury of property taxes. It's in the Constitution of the state of Oklahoma that municipal governments cannot use property taxes to run their day-to-day operations. So we're very reliant on sales tax. This is a breakdown. We collect a total of 3.5 cents. 1 cent goes directly to the hospital, which is about $1.5 million. When they pay off the debt on that facility out there in 2031, my recommendation will be to my predecessor and to the future mayors and councils is to go back to the public and say, okay, we've paid off the hospital. Let's put that 1 cent, 1% back into the city for capital improvements. That's $1.5 million. That will go a long way to addressing some of our capital needs. But here again, as the batons pass from one generation to the next, that's got to be conveyed and shared with the public. I talked about, the 0.5 cent for the fire tax. City basically operates on about 2% or 2% of the sales tax, and then the county collects 1.25. If you look at that graph, like I said, it's probably hard to read from where you're at, but 2018, 2019, you're collecting 3.2 million, and then last year we collected 2.7. So we're $500,000 less in 2024 than we were in 2018, and that's a lot of revenue to lose for a community of our size. Here's a snapshot of the budget. We spend about $8.2 million in city operations, and then another $10 million in water, sewer, electric, garbage. So for a town of our size, 5,000, that includes all capital investments, everything we're trying to do throughout the year is about $18 million. Mayor, why don't you talk, and I'll sit for a minute, on the 3 engineering firms.
Excuse me. So, as Jim alluded to earlier, we had one engineering firm that kind of was a catch-all. They did everything that we needed. And I am in the engineering world, and what I will tell you is that there's not one engineering firm that can do everything for everything that we need done in the city of Kingfisher among any other cities. So we went out for a solicitation just saying, hey, tell us what you're good at, and we're going to interview you, and we want to hear more about that. So we selected 3 firms. Those 3 firms are Park Hill, SRB, and Team. Park Hill was hired specifically to look at our treatment processes, water treatment, wastewater treatment, and water resources. SRB was specifically hired to look at our stormwater drainage and our streets. No, that's not right. Our sanitary sewer collection and our water distribution within the city. And then Team was hired to look at our drainage around the city as well as our streets. So, hopefully this is not too shocking to you. Here's the outlay of what we would like to expend over the next 10 years to capture some of the improvements that are absolutely necessary. And as you see there, it's going to be somewhere in around $32 million today in just those three things: water, sewer, streets, and drainage. If you program that amount of money, then we're looking at somewhere around, time cost of money is 36 million. So I'm not as good at changing these slides as Jim, so I apologize. So just real quickly, what does that look like as far as, again, the net present value? You're looking in the water world of about 11.5 million. And these are not wants. We talk about, hey, what are some of the maintenance issues we have? We have our network of pipes for water specifically are very aged. We again have operated based on emergencies, not necessarily programmatic maintenance. So same thing goes with sewer. We talked about the I&I, but we have an old network there as well, which is about 15 million. That includes some of the upgrades to our wastewater treatment plant. One of the things that is very costly that I'll mention is what we call our headworks, and that's actually the entry point into the wastewater treatment plant. It is, we've been operating with truly duct tape and baling wire on that thing, and it's gonna be about a $2.5 million investment just for that one process. So streets and drainage, I mean, I don't know that we'll ever catch up with all of that. But the next slide, you know, the way we've divided this out is as you see there, and I won't go through all of it, but obviously when you think about these investments, you have your fire hydrants that provide the emergency response, but valve replacements. We have a number of things throughout our system that we can't cut off valves. So there are valves throughout the city that are inoperable. So we're going to have to make an investment in those to ensure that if we have an emergency and we need to shut stuff down, we need to be able to operate those valves. You know, you can see the rest of that. On the sewer program, again, I talked a little bit about the wastewater treatment and then the sanitary sewer lines replacement, and then obviously trying to develop an emergency fund to ensure that we can take care of those emergencies when they arise. So real quickly, just on the recommended improvements, you can see that about a third of that really is high priority, about $12.5 million. And then from there, 5 to 10 years. And so we developed that CIP program that was initially, we started at 20 years, but it was so out of whack that we dialed that back to 10 years. And we came up with this $32 million. And that was based upon those three engineering firms that really went through our systems to tell us what we needed. Again, you know, deferred maintenance is a problem. Had a conversation this morning with some folks that we're much like many other governments. We operate off of one-time money and we build stuff and we don't have a way to maintain it. We've got to look at ways to maintain things for the future. And it's kind of like, you know, I mean, the old adage of when's the best time to plant a tree? 30 years ago, the next best time's today, right? So one thing I want to leave you with, if you would, and I spoke at the Rotary about a month ago, and I think I borrowed this from an acquaintance, and I really, again, appreciate you guys showing up today because, you know, it's not often that we get a lot of feedback. We have complaints here and there about issues, but looking at it from a global standpoint, we've got to invest the money that we have as best we can to take care of the needs of our community. So if you would bear with me, let me read this. They didn't come to the meeting, they didn't fill out the survey, they didn't attend the open house or read the long, boring newsletter where we explained the change before it ever happened. But when the problem finally reached them, when the trash wasn't picked up on time, when the dog barked too long, when the shelter was full, when the streetlight flickered, they came in swinging, with rage, with accusations, with a certainty so unshakable it no longer resembled anything close to the truth. How could this happen? What are we paying for? Why don't you people ever listen? It didn't matter that the issue was caused by the very apathy that preceded the anger. It didn't matter that the budget was cut because the bond failed, that the staff position was eliminated because no one defended it, that the animals kept coming because people kept abandoning them. That rolled out real good. No one wanted to hear that because hearing it would mean accepting a deeper truth. This isn't just a government problem, it's a civic one. And it lives in the silence of the uninvolved until it explodes in the noise of the outraged. The deeper tragedy isn't what government gets wrong, it's how rarely the public acknowledges what they gave up the right to critique by never choosing to engage. Somewhere along the way, we stopped teaching that democracy is participation, not performance, that citizenship is responsibility, not just reaction, that the right to be heard comes not just from shouting loud enough, but from showing up when it matters. Because the truth is, you can't ghost the process and then rage at the result. You can't avoid the work and still expect the reward. You can't abandon your civic duty and then claim moral high ground when something breaks. We're being drowned in a culture of outrage fueled by ignorance and enabled by convenience. People want full services on half facts. They want accountability without contribution. They want perfection from systems they themselves have neglected. It's not just wrong, it's corrosive. It breaks down the social contract. It degrades public servants. It breeds mistrust where humility and partnership should live. Government isn't perfect, but it's still showing up. It's still answering calls from people who won't answer ballots. Still working late to fix problems they didn't cause for residents who don't want to hear an explanation, only an apology. So we can do better, but only if we remember that self-governance doesn't mean screaming louder. It means showing up sooner. So we appreciate your time. If you have questions, we'll be happy to try to answer that. We've consumed all of our time, but we'll stick around if you need something answered.
What are we doing to attract new business to retain the ones we're losing?
Good question. You want to talk
Yeah,
about?
sure, I don't have a problem. That's a topic that I've been discussing with the Kingfisher Economic Development Foundation since the day I got here. I'm a board member there. We need to do better at recruiting businesses. This community has grown less than 1% over the last 100 years. And I've had people tell me, Jim, we're happy the way it is. I'm not happy the way it is. That's why we're challenging the status quo. United left, poor management, I don't know. We are trying to recruit another grocery store to come to Kingfisher. But the attitude of the community has got to change, that we're happy with the way we are. Otherwise, this $3 million or $4 million we need to invest each year is going to be on your backs, because we need to make this infrastructure improvement. So without economic development, the community is going to continue to struggle. So it's a top priority with me, and we're working hard, trying to get pieces of property that are owned by large families to sell at reasonable prices. That's another challenge. Everybody in Kingfisher County believes they have oil underneath their property. If I was to share with you some prices that what property went for, it would blow you all away. It's a real challenge in Kingfisher. Anybody else? Yes.
Is the hospital a revenue producing asset?
I don't know exactly how that contract's set up, to be honest with you. So the sales tax that's dedicated to that was for the infrastructure in the building, is my understanding. That is leased to Mercy Hospital. And so as far as what they generate in revenues is Mercy's, it's not necessarily City of Kingfisher.
The conversation I've had is there are communities our size that don't have an emergency hospital in their community. And so this was a partnership with Mercy and the city of Kingfisher. That loan will be paid off in 2031. Maybe they'll get it paid off a little sooner because I know they refinanced some of their debt. But we need to recapture that 1% to reinvest in our own community in Kingfisher. But the hospital is a quality of life amenity that the city fathers at that time felt was important for us to have a intermediate, care hospital.
And for the city, it's not a revenue generator, if that's your question. I mean, it's a pass-through.
Yeah. Any other questions? You want to talk to us afterwards? We'll be here for a while.
I do.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What is the direction right now of the whole council opinion on the pool? It is a county, I realize you said it's not Kingfisher people.
Yeah.
Have they considered talking to county commissioners? Because the entire county benefits from everything here at Kingfisher.
The interesting thing is, when I look at the census data, and they haven't always been tracking this, but when people come in, we say, where are you from? Well, I'm from Yukon, I'm from Piedmont, I'm from Oklahoma City. We host parties for people that are from Edmond, and Okarche doesn't have a indoor swimming pool. And so the challenge the county commissioners have, if we do this for you, what are we gonna do for Hennessy's pool? What are we gonna do for
Could you not do
Okarche's?
some kind of a tax that 3 months out of the year, it splits with all three?
Yeah.
But then, because this is year-round,
Yeah,
it benefits so many people, young and old.
yeah.
I will tell you this, is one of the things that we're working towards is a better relationship with the county commissioners. Don't know what happened before, if there was any, but there's all kinds of potential interlocal agreements that we can work on to better provide for our citizens. They are torn. I'll tell you, the temperature of the current commission, it's split as far as the aquatic center. One of the things that we do have to recognize, we have invested quite a bit of money in that one place, and there are some that said, hey, it's never going to turn a profit. It's going to be a continual battle as far as upkeep. I mean, an indoor pool is very difficult with corrosion and everything else. But one of the things we are working towards is ensuring that we have a better working relationship with the county, for sure.
Well, I'm not a Kingfisher resident, but I'm a Kingfisher County. Call on us, those of us.
They allowed you in here today? No, I was just kidding.
We asked if it's okay. But
Thank
any
you
of
for
your
being here.
parks, we all use that park and the golf course and
Yeah.
the pool.
You bet.
We need to be helping support it.
Yeah.
So call on the county residents. We'll help you.
Well, as I said, the quality of life, not many communities our size have an 18-hole golf course, an aquatic center.
Exactly.
The parks that we have, splash pads, the school
amazing.
system, we have a lot, and 4 major banks that are willing to invest, in the community. And to that gentleman's point about economic development, we need to spur that economic development and we need jobs. Because with jobs, we'll have homes, and with homes, people will bring kids, they'll buy things, they'll use the aquatic center, they'll use the parks, they'll spend their sales tax money, and it's just a rippling effect. But we need to do a better job at job recruitment.
Yeah, I just want you to know you have a lot of support for this city from the entire county.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Anybody else?
Thank you again for being, go ahead. Did you have a question?
Well, I was just gonna ask Jim, Jim, when you first came to town, you talked about working on bringing commercial industry, and do we have any lookers?
2 weeks ago, I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. We talked to 2 major manufacturing firms that were looking at several sites in Oklahoma, and we were on the short list. And one was an international company outside the United States that was feeling pressure from President Trump and wanted to build a facility here in the United States. And so I wish I could tell you that it's one of those things you could turn a dime, but We have definitely broadened our scope. We are part of the Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce now. We're an associate member. They focus on economic development as it relates to jobs. The mayor and I joined that group of about 60 businessmen in May and went to Washington, D.C., met with our congressional delegation, our senators, and got a perspective on what was going on. And so Kingfisher is getting a bigger visibility in this portion of Oklahoma, where I think we've been kind of hidden. The mayor is absolutely correct. We have had more conversations with our county commissioners than the last administration had, probably in 9 or 10 years. So we're continuing to do that. I wish I could tell you that I could snap my fingers and presto bingo and things are going to happen. We've been talking with 3 different grocery stores to either take over the United facility or build a brand new facility on a different location. It's just economic development is a challenge. Interest rates are slowing things down. Businesses just don't want to invest until they know for sure what the economic conditions are going to be. There's a lot of things in play with that. But we're doing our best. You know, we're not sitting watching the grass grow.
One thing I would say too, and I appreciate that question, you know, Jim is tasked with a lot of different things. I mean, he's a city manager over, and every city, it doesn't matter what size, are dealing with the same things that Jim is. Jim's doing it with less staff, and he wears a lot of hats. So I would say, in regards to the Kingfisher Chamber and anything else that's going on, the Economic Development Group, we need to all be working towards that development, because he can't do it by himself. He can't do it with his staff. There's a lot of things that he has to deal with every day.
I'm sorry, one more. There's a data center being discussed to be put in Kingfisher County. I don't know if y'all are aware of that. Could that be something that could be put in your city limits in an industrial area that y'all would benefit, the city would benefit from that?
The challenge is, and without getting into the specifics, this foreign country that was looking at coming to Kingfisher County because we had a full-service fire department, full-service police department, there was a local hospital closed. They're looking at 1,000 acres. We don't have 1,000 acres inside the corporate limits of Kingfisher. But as I showed them this piece of property with the assistance of Oklahoma City, I said we could probably annex it in. But the big key is to bring the jobs. You know, they were looking at 200 jobs in the first phase, and another 200. These are high-paying jobs. And so when I look at, we've got the subdivisions, we've got the housing stock, we could supply that. And there again, people, whether you're in the county or in the city, are shopping locally. You know, you're
Right.
investing your money locally. So anything we can do.
One of the things though too, in regards to that, it's a significant investment from the city in order to attract those people as far as power, water, sewer, all of that stuff. We didn't mention this, but we operate on about a $19 million budget. Our budgeted expenses is about 18.5, don't mark, it's somewhere in that neighborhood. So we have about $500,000 of discretionary funds that has to stretch, because none of this stuff that I mentioned of the 32 million, we can't do it with $500,000. And everything else is already taken, I mean, our expenses. So that's a huge investment. It's a huge power commitment. We probably can't provide that we were not going to provide that given the system we have
Well,
now.
the second concern is OG&E is where they're gonna get all their power. Is that gonna affect?
And they were at the table with me. I mean, there was
Okay.
15 people just from the Oklahoma City contingency, and then this foreign country brought another 15 people with them. I mean, I spent the entire day with them talking about our site, what we could do, the power, the water, the sewer. I mean, I was kind of stunned when they said how much sewer they're gonna need.
I know.
It's a team effort, like the mayor said. Each one of you are ambassadors. You know, you're going to take what you learned today and you're going to tell your neighbors or your friends or at church, and that's going to go a long way. You know, because next year when we give this State of the City, I'd like to see twice as many people here. I'd like to see standing room only, because we both believe in communication. We both believe in transparency. So. Thank you for your question.
So the data center, is that the foreign investment?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
No, it is not.
Thank you again. We'll stick around. If you have any other questions, by all means, holler at us. Anytime, if you have questions, we'd welcome you at our commission meetings too. Those are usually not well attended other than by commissioners. So if you have any questions, holler at us.
Hey,